Officers faulted for not following their training during the Uvalde school shooting, but not everyone had active shooter training. What we're learning about some of the officers who responded.
It may be funny to you, motherf***er, but it's not funny to me.
Beto O'Rourke's explicit response to a heckler earned big cheers from supporters, but could it actually hurt his campaign? We dig deeper into the reaction to his response. Policy changes have some people in the LGBTQ community questioning whether to stay in Texas, how a new business is helping people who want to move out. Billions in funding now available to help Texas communities looking for water solutions, the effort to make sure the money goes where it's needed most.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. The investigation into the Uvalde school shooting criticized law enforcement officers for not following their training on how to respond to an active shooter. But it turns out many of those local officers never completed that training. Investigator Dalton Huey looked into the records to find out who did and who did not have active shooter training. Dalton joins us now. What records did you look at?
So we looked at training records from the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement for every licensed peace officer from Uvalde CISD, Uvalde Police Department, and Uvalde County Sheriff's Office.
Is active shooter training required for all of those officers?
No, in Texas, only school-based law enforcement officers are required to receive active shooter training.
So who missed out on the training?
So all of the UCISD officers did have the mandated training. However, only about half of the Uvalde Police Department officers had completed active shooter training, and about 80% of the county sheriff's officers had never completed active shooter training.
Any response to what you found so far?
No, we reached out to the Uvalde Police Department and the county sheriff's office and asked if anything was going to change regarding their training requirements, and we haven't heard back from them.
All right, Dalton, thank you very much for joining us. You can see more from this story online now. Just scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you to our State of Texas page where you can see Dalton's full story. A legal challenge to let the public see more information about the Uvalde school shooting has failed. A Travis County District Judge denied a state senator's request to order DPS to release records related to the shooting at Robb Elementary School. Senator Roland Gutierrez wants records on the emergency response made public. Capitol correspondent Monica Madden joins us now. What's the immediate impact of this ruling, Monica?
Well, for now, it means that the Texas Department of Public Safety can keep those records private. The judge's ruling was really narrow and only addressed whether State Senator Gutierrez went through the proper process and how he submitted the public information request. But she did not address whether or not the state can actually keep those records secret. And this matters because Senator Gutierrez was requesting details like the DPS manual and how they respond to some of these active shooter threat situations. So wanting to know more about the protocol. He also wants some of that body cam footage that we have not received from any of those 91 DPS officers on scene. So not having these records, Gutierrez says, is a loss for the public, who he ultimately wants this information to get out to.
What did the judge say Senator Gutierrez did wrong when he made his records request?
Well, Josh, as you know, there are 3 typical ways that you can submit a public information request to different state agencies. One, you can send an email to the designated PIR agency, if you will. Another way is to hand deliver your public information request to the proper agency. And then a lot of state agencies have these online electronic portals in which you can submit your request. The judge says that was the way that Senator Gutierrez should have done it, agreeing with the state.
Monica, what comes next in this case?
Well, Gutierrez says that he plans to appeal the judge's decision and will also make a new request requesting this information in the way that the judge says that he should in order to receive it. And Josh, I do want to point out that DPS did offer to hand over some of these records to Senator Gutierrez, but if and only if he signs a non-disclosure agreement. He says that he's going to push forward so that they can get accountability on the actions of these DPS officers, law enforcement officials, I should say, who were on scene that day on May 24th. Josh, back to you.
Thanks, Monica. The issue of gun control after the school shooting fueled a memorable moment on the campaign trail. It happened at a Beto O'Rourke event in Mineral Wells. He was talking about the power of an AR-15. That's the semi-automatic rifle used by the Uvalde gunman. A heckler started to laugh. O'Rourke responded with a, well, colorful language. It's getting a lot of attention. Reporter Grace Reeder reached out to a political expert who told her the exchange could set a precedent for what Texans see this campaign season.
It may be funny to you, but it's not funny to me, okay?
Have you had time to review the video that's circulating right now of Beto O'Rourke and his comments? And if so, what do you make of that?
For O'Rourke, this isn't the first time he's cursed in public. For his supporters, if you read the articles and Twitter about it, they're really proud of what O'Rourke did, you know, yelling at the heckler. If you read the other side, what they're saying is this is a guy who might be unhinged, is unprofessional, is not the kind of person we want as governor.
As we see it in the polls now, what can we expect this fall?
I think this is going to be a precursor. If this is the new Beto O'Rourke, a Beto O'Rourke who is blue in party and blue in language, he's going to be running a very negative campaign.
This conversation specifically was about Uvalde and about gun control. How much focus is going to be on that moving forward?
Follow the law that's on the books, ladies and gentlemen.
I think for O'Rourke, he's got a couple big issues that he's going to want to play into. One is gun control. He had moved around on this issue. He was against it, then he was for it, then he's against it. Now he is definitely for gun control, and he's playing that hand throughout the race. So that's going to be a huge issue. The second thing is the grid. We're almost out of summer, and if the grid holds, that issue goes away. But he's got to have something else to fall back on, and he doesn't have that issue. He's running on guns. He's got to figure out in the next 3 months, what else does Beto O'Rourke bring to the table? If it's just swearing and gun control, that's not going to be enough to defeat Governor Abbott.
We reached out to Governor Abbott's campaign. His communications director offered no comment, but clarified the heckler was not associated with the governor's campaign. O'Rourke's staff sent us a statement saying, quote, "There's nothing funny about 19 kids being shot to death in their classroom, and there's nothing okay about refusing to act so it doesn't happen again."
South Texas communities could soon see more migrants arriving, how a federal policy change could bring an increase in border crossings. Changes in Texas have some LGBTQ families wondering whether it's time to move out. We look closer at the concerns driving a new service that helps people leave Texas. From dry lawns to shrinking lakes, we're seeing the growing impact of the drought in Texas, how a new round of federal funding could help communities meet their water needs as demand rises.